Hi everyone, it's Oliver here, and I'm back with Rob Hill for another audio commentary. And with this month being October, it's time for some horror with Damien, Omen II. So Rob, you looking forward to chatting about Omen II?
Yeah, always, man, always. I like this movie. I go way back with this as well.
Oh, do you? Oh, excellent. Well, that's good stuff. Okay, folks, you can enjoy this podcast by itself, but if you wish to sync it up with your own copy of the film, either on Blu-ray or NTSC DVD, I believe it's also on Disney+, put the timestamp to 0 and press play now. Now, I didn't grow up with the sequel. I only saw it on DVD once Fox put out that collection years ago. I was very familiar with the first one, but the second one, maybe I saw it once or twice on TV, like BBC Two, late evening. But yeah, it's only kind of later in the years I became very familiar with it. I don't think it's a bad sequel. It just doesn't quite hit the suspense heights as the first one.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made that it's not a very good horror film, and there's definitely an argument to be made that it's really quite dull in places, but it's dull in ways that I like. It's old, lots of old men talking about stuff. I like that.
A lot of walking around locations from like point A to point B, sort of make up some time. But also, this was originally directed by Mike Hodges, who did Flash Gordon couple of years later, didn't he?
Yeah.
Best known for Get Carter, wasn't it?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. And he obviously got fired from the film, or quit, maybe down to creative differences, but some interesting stories about him and the producer Harvey Bernard, who produced the original, and went on to produce a few Richard Donner films. But Donner couldn't do this, could he? Because he was making, Rob?
He was, I don't know, some piece of shit. I can't remember.
How dare you? How dare you? But yeah, he was obviously making Superman, the greatest film ever made, and so he went with Mike, and then replaced him with Don Taylor, who'd I think he did. He also did Escape from a Planet of the Apes, another sequel.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen the sequel. I've always heard that the following films were kind of hit and miss of the Apes movies. But
they are, and everyone's got their own views on them. I, as ever, tend to like the ones no one else likes. But Escape from the Planet of the Apes is definitely the most interesting and probably the best of the sequels. Yeah. Most atypical.
Online, it sort of suggests that this sequence here was done by Mike, and there's a few other scenes done later by Mike that stay in the film. The guy playing Guggenheim doesn't get credited.
Leo McKern, no, he doesn't, and it's a travesty. I absolutely love Leo McKern as well. He's in a couple, one of my favourite films, which I've forgotten the name of now, because it's come from. I wasn't expecting to talk about it. I know Monsignor Quixote, which is a Graham Greene novel, and it was made. I think ITV is it's a TV drama, but I think it's ITV rather than BBC. And it's a double-hander with Alec Guinness, but he's absolutely brilliant in this as a rabid lunatic only in this opening scene, sadly. But
yeah, and I think he's made to look older because he lived for quite a long time. But he was also in Ladyhawke, which Harvey had produced for Dawn.
Yeah, another Harvey Bernard film. Yeah. And also, I noticed Bernard mentioned during his commentary that in that scene where Leo McKern's herring around in the Jeep, he actually fell out of it, which must have been worth seeing.
Oh, definitely. This is really to sort of tie up perhaps loose ends of the first one, to open with this, to sort of get the message out there, so at least someone knows, or obviously they discover these daggers later on doing a dig with the other archaeologists. There's also there's parts of this film that aren't fully explained. There's little... You kind of see visual things, but don't really... I suppose they're kind of using that as a way to say, okay, this is how they got some of the artefacts, like the daggers and so forth, and some of the remains of the wall where you've got Damien's face as a child. But yeah, it's all this sort of... And it jumps 7 years to Damien at school. But there's a sequence coming up, though, where the structure of the building begins to collapse, which is a brilliant miniature. I think it's the only sort of visual effect they really have in the movie, other than the fact from some special effects of people getting cut in half.
That's an interesting point, isn't it? It's such an old-fashioned horror movie in a way. There is nothing in the way of effects, or there's the odd bit of this and that here and there, but there's no like big effect sequence or big like look at me wow moments in terms of like classic kills and horror stuff.
No, I think the idea, very much like the first one with the sequels, is to keep it extremely grounded. Some sort, reality that you're not going to have anything crazy opticals in it or anything fantasy based. I think if they would do, they did do a remake, like basically a kind of a shot for shot remake of the number of years later to sort of mark the anniversary. I think it was 2007. No, 2006. 666, right?
Of course.
Yeah, and people panned because it just didn't do anything different.
Yeah, I didn't see it actually.
It did last on when I was there as a projectionist at the cinema, but there was a raven there. Here you go.
Are they native to Egypt? Or where are we? It's
supposed to be Israel, isn't it?
Israel, is it? Look at this. It's beautiful. This and they shot all the everything was shot in here as well, wasn't it? They didn't recreate any of it for the scene where it all collapses or anything like that. It was actually all shot here, apparently.
It's amazing stuff, and it's also, I think the actors were quite shaken by the fact that they had to sort of be drowned in sand, and like a piece of glass, I think, to protect them. But it was kind of it's a pretty hairy moment to see.
It is.
You're trying to act that out while getting covered in sand. It's in my eye. You'd be like.
Leo McKern is not exactly a sort of lithe, fit and healthy type who's going to deal with things like that as well. He looks like he'd be much happier with a glass of red wine and a large piece of meat.
Pork pie, Rob, isn't it?
Pork pie.
One of your favourites, isn't it? Pork pie, Oliver? No, I'm all right.
But yeah, it's a hard film to make a sequel to, I think, The Omen. In a way, it lends itself really well because it's about a child. So you just give him another story to go through when he's a little bit older. But it doesn't. I don't know. It's an odd one because it doesn't really do anything. Like you said about the remake, this doesn't really do anything new or different. It's kind of just a retread, really, of the first film. But I like it because it's just so resolutely old-fashioned and kind of stolid. Old school.
Do you think it's down to the fact that because of dealing with a teenager, it makes it a little bit more problematic? Because a child, a child actor, he's not really in the film. In the first one, he's kind of just reacting to stuff or screaming. With this one, he has a lot of dialogue to go through as an older character. But I don't know. It's always a problem with teenagers. Kids in movies aren't particularly great at acting, and they sort of kind of ruin a movie. But thankfully. Jonathan Scott Taylor is surprisingly very good.
Yeah, he is. I think that the problem with my critic's hat on, I think one of the big problems is he's exactly the wrong age in every conceivable way. He's still a child, so you're still dealing with a lot of the same things you're dealing with in the first movie, in terms of not knowing quite how responsible he is for his actions, not knowing that even if he does do something evil, is that who he is, or is that childish and petulance? And he's not quite old enough to sort of have a lot of the narrative devices that would come with that, love interest and sort of being more self-sufficient. If he was on the cusp of complete self-sufficiency, there's all kinds of things you can do with that. He's not necessarily beholden to his parents anymore, and so on. And yeah, I think a love interest would have probably done something, maybe. Yeah, to sort of expand the character a little bit.
Because again, as you were saying, repeating things, he's still surrounded by people who are protecting him.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I always kind of didn't make sense to a certain degree, because have they for so long been communicating with the devil, or are they just devil worshippers that then get messages to then tell them they have to protect Damien, or these kind of religious fanatics who know the dates when he is born and followed this person, thus they discover that this is the son of the devil, and they have to sort of make sure no one interferes with him,
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? It's not clear. I don't think it has to be. I don't think it's a problem. But I found myself wondering the same thing. There's a moment later on when Lance Henriksen, who is the military commander and one of the people who's there to help him, and another character who's also clearly evil in their tale, when they sort of see each other, and there's just a momentary look between them. So there is obviously some grand scheme, But how organised is it? Do they have meetings and discuss what they're going to do next and so on?
Yeah. This is the scene that Mike Hodges had shot. Harvey had pointed out that he did so many takes, he drove the producer nuts, because he was like basically him walking past these kind of flames he put up in the foreground. But if you look at some of the stuff Mike had done, compare it to Don Taylor's stuff, who's hired because he was efficient, got things done on time and budget, that Mike was kind of doing things a little bit more creative.
Yeah,
with the camera work.
And taking his time over it. Whenever there's a situation like this where a director leaves a project and it's unclear, like both sides kind of say it was their decision, but neither side really wants to say why because they want to be a bit professional. It always helps to look at who replaced him and what they do, I think. And Don Taylor just turned up and he was like, right, this is a job. Shoot this, shoot that, shoot this. Everything was done on time. Everything was done under budget. So I think you can put two and two together and say the reason is, Mike Hodges was sacked. He didn't leave of his own volition, as he says, and he was sacked because he was taking bloody ages. But as you say, taking time is how you get the magic.
Exactly. Yeah. There's another scene coming up where is the old lady there who's in Beetlejuice. She smokes all the cigarettes. It comes out of her neck, doesn't it? Where they're at the table and she's like, "Oh, get her grandson away from Damien."
Yeah,
he's a bad influence. That was kind of left in. Yeah,
and I think all of the stuff at the military academy was Mike Hodges. I'm absolutely convinced of it.
Really?
Because for one thing, the main scene at this academy is with the Lance Henriksen. Well, there's a few, aren't there? I suppose, but that Lance Henriksen has this enormous introductory scene.
Yes.
And then he's barely in the movie again after that, and he's saying he doesn't really do anything useful or have any big scenes.
Yeah.
And when you read it and when you see him being interviewed about it, he's saying, he and Mike Hodges got on great. Mike Hodges wanted his character to be central, wanted to be really important. They'd worked out all this great stuff to do together. And then when Don Taylor came on, he was shoved into the background.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You've got this crazy introductory scene that really establishes this character, but then we don't come back to him. So I think that's obviously a Mike Hodges scene. And also the producer does say in his commentary, you never go back to a location. Once you've been there, the budget just doesn't cover you going back to a location. So we know that they'd already shot at the military academy. They know that they'd had it closed down to shoot there, which wouldn't have been cheap, I imagine. So, yeah.
There's a $4 million budget, so double the original. Still $4 million back then was still a lot of money, count to inflation and so forth. But interesting here, we saw William Holden. Obviously, he was asked to play the original character Gregory Peck plays, but he turned it down because he thought it was kind of a silly idea for a movie. And Mike Hodges was asked to do the first Omen, but he thought the script was laughable. But he said Richard Donner did such a brilliant job of it, So obviously he saw the success of that and was like, "Yeah, I'll do number 2." And obviously he still gets a writing credit in this. Mike Hodges. William Holden wasn't very well when they made this. I think he had some sort of liver disease, I think, and the producer points out that he just doesn't look well in the film, which I didn't really clock on. It's always, but again, you were saying very early on, lots of old people in this film. You know what I mean? It's kind of that thing, kind of that leftover thing of the 70s where the stars were old. Even though maybe in their 40s, they look like they're really old.
Yeah,
they've been eating a lot of beef burgers stuffed with cigarettes, and
they did. Yeah, men didn't. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Bill Holden was about 40 in this. But I think that's a deliberate choice of this series, and it ties into this whole the kind of stolid old. This. I mean, look at this shot. You wouldn't get a shot like that in your typical late 70s horror movie.
Mm.
But I think it's one of the reasons it's so different is that they have all these old, it's like Gregory Peck in the first movie. Mm. They have these legendary old figures, in central roles, and they bring a kind of weight and a kind of gravitas, and it rubs off on everyone around them as well.
Oh, for sure.
It's just part of the really unusual, and I don't know. It's almost like the last of a certain type of movie, being made in the face of a very changing world.
Well pointed out, Rob. The director of photography, Bill Butler, in this does a brilliant job. You can see the great sort of anamorphic blurs in the corner at the top of the screen, but some of the exterior stuff looks wonderfully shot. But inherently, it does come with a feel, like it does feel very TV movie.
Yeah, the camera doesn't do an awful lot of movement, nothing
It's all
dynamic.
blocked out,
There's a lot of, yeah.
Because this is all Mike Hodges stuff.
Yeah, you can tell, can't you? Somehow you can tell.
It's interesting, but Holden's kind of character, his mother, she's doesn't like Damien straight away, and it's kind of not really explained why she feels this way. It's more like she just doesn't like him and thinks he's a bad influence. We haven't seen this bad influence on him. He seems just to tag along with his cousin. So yeah, I never sort of this felt like you're missing a scene that would demonstrate that she was not happy with him or didn't like him, you know.
Yeah, I don't think Damien even needs to really do anything, because it's obvious. I mean, I can buy that it's a vibe. You know, he's the son of Satan. He probably has a slightly odd vibe. He was born of a goat or whatever it is. A jackal, sorry. So, like him doing something that she sees that's evil, I think that would have been too much. But maybe a scene of her like gazing out of the window, watching him playing with the cousin, and just like clearly thinking there's something not right about that boy, because that's all we need. That's all we need is to think there's something not quite right about that boy. But it's funny. It's like she's kind of the most unlikable character in the whole movie in a strange way, and it's because she's right.
Yeah,
like everyone who's right, it comes across like a complete arsehole.
They do. But also, the wife, Lee Grant, she's just like really over the top with her anger all the time. And obviously, originally, she wasn't supposed to be an apostle of Satan, like a supporter of him. But obviously, that's a twist introduced by Don Taylor. Or was it Dan Taylor? It is Don Taylor, sorry.
Don Taylor.
Yeah, and she kind of gets, like, for saving Damien, she just gets cooked alive anyway. But she's just somewhat just manic in this, when as soon as, you know, there's some sort of questioning about Damien, she just goes mad, you know.
I like that, actually. I really like her performance in this. There's a scene, in fact, there's a couple of scenes, probably the ones you're talking about, actually, where something is said about Damien that's clearly over the line, and she reacts exactly like a mother would. Obviously, she's not his mother, but she's clearly emotionally has adopted him as her own child. And like later on, when Bill Holden's starting to finally have doubts, she just flies off the handle like this. I'm not having any of this shit. I really like that stuff.
I will say I don't like it. It's you know. It's sort of, I think maybe with her performance, she reveals her cards too early, maybe.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. It is melodramatic.
But she's obviously knew that Bill Holden was looking after Damon, so she's kind of weaseled her way into the family, you know, to sort of, you know, an old man looking for a younger woman who's probably like, okay.
It's nice the way that stuff's all handled in both these movies, actually, both the first two.
Yes.
I don't remember the third one so well, but I really like the way that there's a scene that goes on for ages. Where they're talking about like the direction they're going to take Thorn Industries, and really get into quite a lot of detail about this thoroughly tedious plan to buy up farmland and then lease back the food grown on it and like whether or not that's morally right, whether it's legal. And I'm sitting there thinking, why are we being told all this?
Yeah.
But actually, it's quite clever, because it's establishing that this is the empire that is being grown for Damien to use, to wield the power of. So we're seeing there exactly how he's going to do that. He's going to take control of the world. The end times will come through his control of the food supply, and it's a really nice touch. And it's not the way that you'd ever do it in a modern horror movie. That would be a 30-second, not a 5-minute scene with two old men walking around talking.
It does feel like a plot. It does feel like a plot they've like a villain would have in like the 70s live action Spider-Man show, and the kids just like, "Where's Spider-Man?" Just like waiting for 45 minutes of old people talking in a room. It's like, oh god. I love it. It's interesting. Like I think the wrangler of the Ravens was the guy who worked on the birds. But when you do the close-ups of the eye, it's an insert shot when you clearly see the raven is outside, like you've got trees in its reflection of its eye. It's supposed to be inside. And when you hear the music, Because Goldsmith won his only Academy Award Oscar, I think, for the first Omen.
The first one.
I mean, he should have won shitloads more.
That was his only Oscar. I had no idea.
He got nominations, of course, but that's the only one he won, I believe.
I'd have guessed he had like a dozen or something.
Yeah,
like,
you'd
at
think,
least
wouldn't he?
half a John Williams worth.
No, exactly, man. He got screwed over, I swear. But the stuff for this, there was one bit of trivia online that he didn't quite enjoy the process of writing the score. But I mean, everywhere else, I've never found any other, examples of him not liking it. I think the process of just doing a sequel, bringing over his music and adding some more themes is kind of quite easy for him. But it's not quite as eerie as the first one. But this one has this kind of, when you see the ravens, this kind of weird like brap sort of sound effect. It just sounds like when Homer thought Maggie said a word, it's like, she said burlap. This sounds like burlap.
It's a beautiful score, though. It's so effective. It's one of the best of its type. Oh, is Lance Henriksen ever not brilliant? I mean, just...
it's the first time you actually see him looking young, isn't he? Because even by the Terminator, he's still like... He's looking a bit weathered already.
I mean, he still looks fairly... I mean, he's probably only 20, but he still looks fairly weathered here.
It must be those Marlboro Reds he's been smoking.
Yeah, this is the scene or one of the scenes that just makes no sense when considering this character's almost completely written out of the film afterwards.
I know, yeah. But this is the scene, I think, where Mike had done as well, where he's waiting for the weather to be the right time, waiting for the wind to pick up or something. They've been waiting there since 6 a.m. They get the shot at 4 p.m. You were like, going insane. But the producer's like, my God, the time, the money.
Every time I see a scene like this in a movie, in my mind, I desperately want the camera to just pan onto Mahoney with a one in the oven t-shirt. I always think of Police Academy when I see scenes like this. Captain Harris marching up and down.
Definitely, man, yeah.
And these are all extras, weirdly, although it was an actual military academy for kids. They sent them all away. And then
What?
Hodges turned up and he was like, right, where are my extras? So they literally had to bring in extras and hire military academy uniforms to dress them in.
Jesus, God, that was a bit of a fumble, wasn't it? Because I think with the first one, it was all about the idea that either the kid is the son of Satan, or it's all just a coincidence. All these things happen, and that was a trick that Donna wanted to do. Or it could, it's all just instead of being a straight out horror, it's got a sort of thriller aspect, right? So I think this still tries to maintain that sort of thing,
Yeah.
With it, as you were saying, there's no crazy effects in this. There's no crazy scary stuff in it. It's all about there's maybe a bit of suspense and thriller aspect to it. But this one does kind of, once those deaths happen, they're very much of that horror genre vein where it's like we'll say Halloween 1, 2, and 3, 4, blah blah blah, or whatever, these sort of Friday films where things try to get a little bit more extreme with the killings, for the sequel, where the guy obviously gets cut in half later on with the lift. I mean, that's a pretty gruesome scene. But it follows those sort of traits where once someone finds something out about Damien, they're going to die.
Exactly.
It becomes very predictable.
It's the formula of the first movie, but that's actually one of my main notes, is just how obvious that it is that they're repeating that formula. Every time, so the moment someone gives Damien a funny look, you know that the next scene is going to be them getting killed by one of his helpers or somehow or something. And yeah, like you say, that they have got there are a couple that are quite fun kills. There are some interesting attempts, which I think maybe is after having a little look at what's happening because a lot was going on in the world of horror between 1976 and 1978. A lot happened. So I reckon they probably tried to incorporate a couple of more inventive kills, but at the same time, a lot of them are just like when Damien kills his cousin. I mean, there is no less cinematic kill in any movie ever. He just kind of clutches his throat and then dies. And he has like an aneurysm.
Or
his head, is it?
Yeah, he's like,
yeah.
And they said, "Oh, we had like a thin blood vessel or something like that."
Yeah,
They said, you know.
and it's like, yeah, that's exactly how it would probably happen in real life. It were the son of Satan, born of a jackal, to murder his cousin using his brain powers. That's probably what it would look like. But it feels like one of those. It feels like a kill where they hadn't got around to thinking of something more interesting to do with that one yet,
Make
or
his
they
head
didn't have
blow
the
up.
time, or blow his head up. Yeah, scanners him.
Oh, exactly. Or like, they don't even show any blood. I don't think. If he fell to the ground, all his blood came out his mouth and nose or whatever. That would be like, okay, you know, something's happened
There's
there.
hardly any blood in this movie.
No, apart from the guy getting cut off.
Yeah.
What you were saying earlier about like, oh, what the company does. A lot of just like old men. The old man. He's like Holden's friend. He's like, who clearly looks older than Holden, but because his death, he's like ice skating. You know, on this playing hockey or ice hockey, you know. So he's way too old to be doing all this stuff, you know. One slip and he's dead, you know what I mean? Or he's pulled his back out or broken his hip, you know. Look at him behind him, just walking along. It's like, he's way too old.
So many old men walking about talking. Robert Foxworth there, the one with curly hair, doing most of the talking, is, I think, absolutely brilliant. I love him in this.
He's really
I love him in everything. He's really good. For a spell there in the 70s and the 80s, he was doing really good work in everything he appeared in, including Murder, She Wrote. He was Jess's friend who's accused of murder. He didn't do it, though.
Yay, another connection there. It's a Murder, She Wrote, you know. Is that a Murder, She Wrote movie?
There are 4 TV movies, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There you go. Not released theatrically, of course. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Murder, She Wrote in Cinema Scope.
Oh, it's the first thing I'm going to put on my new projector when I get it. It's just so many scenes like this of just old men in brown clothes just talking about business.
So like the 70s Spider-Man. That was kind of one of the things that you sort of, you would notice as a, you know, studying film history. Like the 70s, there was a lot of this stuff. It was all kind of carried over from the decades prior, but it still had this kind of blocking of people in the camera, like it's a theatrical play. Sort of just where the camera just kind of moves a little bit just to get them in frame. You know?
Yeah, that was a great example actually. That Bill Holden taking that phone call and the staging of that and the blocking of that was pure theatre.
Which is it's a very economic way to shoot stuff. You know, but you could do a lot of cool stuff with that. You know, like especially when you got like a busy room and the camera pans. It kind of follows all the way through, you know, sort of craziness. Robert Zemeckis is great at that, sort of following someone for ages. You say we've got more Lance Henriksen stuff here, which is going to be all has no payoff because the last time we see him is when Damien goes to the museum. He just watches him leave those 2 girls and takes his hat and goes.
I love that scene. That scene cracks me up.
Well, it's got 70s like jazz music in the background.
It's like
dates it horrendously.
Damien should have like a glass of brandy and a smoking jacket in that scene.
Man, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you mentioned, I think, was it before we were recording, that he's just not. This boy just didn't go on and do anything. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah,
he did more TV during the 80s. But I think the last thing he did was like late 80s, I think it was. It was a shame, you know. Like, there's no interviews of him. I haven't seen any on YouTube. There was a re-release of this, I think, via Shout Factory. I don't know if they'd managed to acquire him. Because this is my one. My copy's like the old Fox Blu-ray collection. But yeah, maybe just want to talk about it, you know, or just, you know, it's moved away from that industry. And because there was discussion by Harvey Bernard, you know, about child actors, and they don't seem to move on after that. And he was like, yeah, I think because he'd worked on Goonies and Lost Boys, there was a sort of some had and some hadn't continued. I mean, obviously the 2 Coreys would go on to have success of that 90s period of these kind of movies, cheesy comedy movies, I suppose.
But that was a really interesting conversation he was having there, actually, about the kids that he's worked with, and how they've reacted differently after their big star-making roles. But it's really difficult for actors especially like Corey Feldman. to transition into adult work. But this seems like the kind of performance that lends itself to that a lot more. You know, I don't think you'd get the same casting directors looking at him and going, "Oh, well, he's that guy. He's, you know, Corey Feldman's case. He's the wise ass, you know, cool kid, or whatever." You know, that's hard to transition that into an adult role. But this is perfect. I mean, I can completely imagine this kid doing grown-up, adult, serious work.
You could do loads of period dramas and things like that.
Period dramas, exactly.
Yeah, you'd fit straight into it. Well, the casting director was Lynn Stallmaster on this, who found Chris Reeve as Superman. So,
really?
Yeah, he found loads of I think he'd done Tootsie and The Graduate, maybe. I don't know.
That's another very well cast movies, both.
Yeah. There you go, another business chat. I'm saying no, but I'll put it on the back burner. His sort of thing, his idea of, that's too risky, isn't it?
Yeah, he gives in far too easily when he hears that he's not getting his way. That's because I couldn't remember, because I saw this a lot as a kid, because it was just one of those random movies that you owned. You know what it was like back in the day. I don't know, kids today probably don't really grasp it, but you had certain movies that you had access to. And I probably only owned, 15 odd movies when I was, 10 or 12 years old, but this was one of them. So I was really looking forward to seeing it again, because I haven't watched it since then. And really strangely, I didn't remember any of it apart from the famous ice skating scene. Somehow this just didn't stay in my mind.
I know that was it, Harvey Bernard. He hated this dress.
He goes on and on about that dress, doesn't he?
Yeah, he hated it. It's a bit outlandish, isn't it? I think the production designer or costume designer was sort of shows someone who works for like Variety or something. I don't know, some like big magazine, and she would be always wearing something kind of glamorous. You know what I mean? But as a journalist, and she's kind of interviewed people at the dig site and stuff like that, you'd think she'd be a little bit more kind of rough and ready kind of outfit, you know what I mean? Where she doesn't really care about what she wears. She's more about digging up the story, not be glamorous in any way.
Yeah, it does look like she's going to a gala event or something rather than...
Yeah.
But I mean, still though, I mean, he seemed rather too upset about it to my mind in the commentary. Yeah. He just wouldn't leave it, and he came back to it about 3 times as well. It probably doesn't help that there isn't an ounce of colour anywhere else in that frame, actually.
In the world of beige.
Look at that old school. What's that, rear projection? Or
that's pretty good, rear projection, isn't it, I think?
Really?
Yeah.
No,
that bit's a bit faded. The front bit's faded. That's lost a lot of colour, that has.
It looks like it's comped somehow as well.
Well, it's supposed to be New York, isn't it? But I think they're shooting it into sort of double for New York. Get out, you crazy old bitch.
Yeah, people just lose their shit the minute they feel like they found out about Damien. It's a common thing in these videos. There's no kind of rational... Now, if I just start shouting like a lunatic about the son of Satan, no one's going to listen to me. Maybe I need to approach this differently. This doesn't happen.
I think he's a bit weird. You'd be like, really? I think he's the son of Satan. No. You'd be like, a lot of banter like that.
And maybe leave the born of a jackal bit out until later as well. Don't mention that straight off the bat, because it's not really important.
Ah! He was born out of a badger.
Oh, don't. I just thought, watching these Evil Dead knockoffs, I just watched a British one called Revenge of Billy the Kid, which I'd somehow never seen before, but it's about a farmer who has a loving relationship with his goat, and there is an offspring, and the offspring grows up to
oh my god,
it's so wrong, and it's a comedy. It's so wrong in so many ways.
That's a wrong comedy. Oh, she's appeared out of nowhere. You did what? Well, the journalist lady, she gets the similar shot on the eyes, like how they frame her when the the woman in the first one when she sees the nurse jump out the window. This is for you, Damien, and she goes, psh, see her strangle herself. Apparently, in a novelization, it says that the ravens are the sort of controlled by the subconsciousness of Damien. But because in the film, that's not really implied at all. It's just like it's like in the first one, you had those Rottweilers, the dogs, kind of who were protecting him, and will be doing things like at the graveyard to attack Gregory Peck and stuff. So that's kind of, you think they're just being told by the devil to do these things, right, or influenced in some way. And it's always like a slight little influence they're given to do something, and they do it. In the third one, they deploy that a few times. But in this, supposed to be subconscious of Damien. They're attacking people that he's unaware, who doesn't know of them. So.
Exactly. That is a classic example for me of why movies like this work so well. You don't have to explain this stuff. It just has to follow its own internal logic. As long as nothing about it contradicts the rules that have been invented for this movie, then you don't need to know that stuff. The minute you start providing answers like that, it generally just raises questions. Like you say, in this movie, there is no problem whatsoever. It's like, I don't need to know what it is. It's the influence, one way or another, it's the influence of evil that's making these animals do these things. And they're doing them for logical reasons. It all makes sense, so I'm fine with that. The second you start explaining how it's happening, it creates potential holes, logic holes.
Yes, yeah.
You're better off not doing that. It's something this movie does brilliantly is not answer everything. It's not explain everything.
Show and don't tell. And it's all supposed to be left to your imagination to figure out why these things are happening.
We don't need to know. Like there is how we don't think that we know how evil and Satan, should there be one, works. Brilliant. So we don't need it explained.
That was a wonderful Star Trek moment, though. All
Yes.
shot through tights, to make her look all smooth and glowing.
I've just realised that part of this woman's problem is every scene she's had, she's been surrounded by people wearing brown, and she's now driving through a brown field in a brown car with a brown interior. It's no wonder this ridiculous red outfit pops so much.
Yeah. Don't know what it's supposed to symbolise in some way, but...
How are you going to die?
Well, the first film was shot by, I think, Gilbert Taylor, who'd photographed Star Wars.
Gilbert Taylor, yeah.
Yeah. He did Flash Gordon. He's an amazing cameraman, but also didn't get along with George Lucas.
Creatives.
I mean, again, this, yeah, exactly. I mean, this as well still looks pretty good, with how it looks. I just said, because you're shooting it in a very... As I shot it in America, it doesn't quite have that sort of backdrop of the UK. I mean, this scene here could double for the UK without you noticing, apart from the American kind of farm. But I think because a lot of it was set within the UK,
yeah,
it gives you that kind of historic background.
It's always it's in farm country like this. It's often the fences and the ditches there that stand out as not. In Britain, there'd be hedges down both sides of that road. That's right. The way our farming system works. It's ancient hedge systems to protect from wind and stuff. I don't know, but yeah, that's what always stands out to me.
Obviously, it's some of it clearly. It's like a stunt woman with an awful wig on, but it pecks her eyes out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
It's a great moment. Yeah, just don't punch it.
It's very Hitchcock. It really makes me think of the birds.
Is.
Although it's kind of gory and really cool, it's still kind of old Hollywood rather than new horror.
Yes, that's a good point, man. Yeah, you could. Yeah, I'm sure some critics were thinking, going, "I've seen this before," But this is great. When she gets run over.
I love that shot.
She goes flying, doesn't she?
I mean, everything is telegraphed so much in this. Even the build, it's just her and her. The moment you see her sitting on her own in her car driving through these fields, she's going to die any minute.
But instead of getting hit back, as you probably would do, or go straight under the lorry.
Oh, it's a proper comedy thing, isn't it?
She goes up and hits just over where the driver sits. Where it's attached to the truck. You go,
and he looks like he's swerving to hit her.
that's a great dummy as well.
It's horrible the way she kind of slides along the ground afterwards, though.
There's a good bit where she's like got her arms up like this, and her eyes are just like been destroyed. Oh, enjoying their wealth, you know.
Yeah. This is up in Wisconsin, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like classic Bond, where they've got a little bit of padding to show some other locations. People have never been abroad before, you know what I mean?
But it's like it's the helicopter syndrome as well. In the 70s, people were excited to see a helicopter doing something cool, and same here. I think people would have been mildly excited to see snowmobiles.
Yeah. I don't think Mr. Thorne does any work, despite running a massive company.
Just talks in brown clothes. he's head to toe brown again.
70s, mate. Everyone just blended into the furniture.
This is the kind of thing that it would have been nice to have at the beginning. Like, yeah, them mucking about like this, and Aunt Miriam or whatever her name is just watching out the window looking worried. That would have established a few bits and bobs.
Yes, definitely. Well, the story for this was developed by Harvey Bernard, who already spent his entire career being a producer. So it was his story that was then kind of expanded by Stanley Mann and Mike Hodges. Stanley Mann had people watched a lot of the 80s movies. Would be what was it? The Eye of the Needle. Richard Marquand had directed, which is supposed to be a very good film. I've not seen that. He wrote Firestarter and Conan the Destroyer.
Oh,
I think he co-wrote that with another guy. I think, but
I'm not familiar with him somehow. Yeah, I vaguely remember Eye of the Needle being one of those dead solid period appropriate thrillers. You know, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's got Richard the job on Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So Lucas saw that and went, oh, he'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Star Wars or nothing to do with fantasy or science fiction. But I think he was one of those directors who wasn't like part of a union.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lucas needed someone who'd do what he was told and allow him to have his weird credit system, which for some reason he felt was worth going to war with the entire film industry over.
I know. He's just like, I'll just pay the bill. Don't do it again. Good old Lucas. Oh, Damien's wearing a classic dad jumper.
Yeah, and sporting the same hairstyle I had when I was that age.
Did you? Oh, you went for side parting.
I guess maybe we were, because I mean he's 10 years older than.
No, how old is he supposed to be then? I don't know.
I think
Well, it said 7 years later, right? He's only like what, 1 or 2 in the first film, isn't he? Maybe
no. The end of the first film, he's a older toddler. If not a bit more than that. Actually, I want to say he's like
an older toddler,
5 or 6 or something, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he's supposed to be like 12, isn't he? In this?
Yeah, he's clearly meant to be like 12, 13 here. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd think that hairstyle would have been out of fashion by the time I was that age, but my parents obviously didn't think so.
Oh, loads of kids in the 80s had hair like that.
Yeah, it's a nice display of wealth and power, isn't it? He's just quietly oozes it. We see it all the time, the power and the influence. It's one of the strengths of this franchise, this concept, is this sort of this network of characters and companies and all sorts that have clearly sort of been orchestrated very carefully by the powers of evil that he's then been born into, that's there to facilitate his growth.
It's all, for a sort of modern telling of the sort of return of Satan in some way, is the power of greed and control, and having him be the centre of this kind of wealthy family, whereas he will go on to lead a big company that has its claws and everything around the world. It's got to make sense, doesn't it? Really, I think if they did a retake of this, ignoring the remake they did in 2006, it will definitely follow, I'd think, kind of more of a horror scare kind of vibe to it, and more gory things like that, you know.
Yeah.
And sort of, I'd imagine lose some of these subtleties of the 70s movies.
I wonder what the family would be today, because in the 70s, first of all, it was politics, and then it was industry. So in the first movie, he was born into a politician's family, but in this movie, he's now being looked after by the brother who's in industry. And then if it was done in the 80s, it'd blatantly have been like Wall Street finance, money type things.
Yeah.
I wonder if now it would be like a family of TikTok influencers or something equally wretched.
Demanding why they should get free access to things, you know.
Or maybe media, actually. Like born to Rupert Murdoch or someone like that. That would be.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that if Satan were to come among us, it would have something to do with Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah. He's only got a few years left, hasn't he? So then he's finally gone. Unless he's able to sort of transfer his mind to like a machine.
Well, that's basically what he's doing, isn't it? With the son.
Oh yes,
it is.
Yeah, he's chosen his son, who's the most right wing out of the family. You know,
it's so funny as well. This, if you notice, it's so of its time. The men are all doing, like, having big conversations about big important things, and every time we cut to the wife, she's like tidying something up or cooking something or running around after a child. It's like...
But would you trust her to do the barbecue? She's your man's job, isn't it? They do the meat. It's so good if they all had like dodgy sausages, all had the diarrhea out there on the ice. God. Big slurry of shit. There you go. The crow's there. Because actually, when I watched this the other day to refresh myself, when you see Holden's old mate fall into the ice, they don't really shoot him. Like, the build up to it, he just kind of falls through, so you sort of forget he's taking part.
Yeah, it's true, actually. That's probably presumably because he can't ice skate.
No, he's got a stunt double who's like 20 years old with a fake beard on or something. That's not him, an old man. Come on. Oh, this bit is.
Yeah, that's not the same man, is it? Bill Holden's clearly never ice skated either. God, this really properly affected me as a kid, this.
That's the worst thing, you can't get out. You know, you can't even smash through it.
It's such an effective horror device, this.
Yeah, oh yeah. Where's Damien in all this? Where is he? Oh, the other guy's just watching, you know, from afar.
I wouldn't want to be ice skating. It doesn't look very thick, that ice.
No, I wouldn't be able to do it anyway. Even if I was confident, I wouldn't. And I wouldn't have the balls to do that.
Where'd that axe come from?
He pulled out of nowhere, like He-Man turning into Adam turning into He-Man. Pulls out his back. This is like he can clearly breathe. He clearly breathed then. Why is his suddenly just now die? You know, got his breath back. Made froze to death.
Yeah, it's only just occurred to me that there's just a tree growing out the middle of a lake. There is that.
Yeah, that's a good shot though.
Yeah,
the music cue ends and you sort of see this kind of him in despair.
There's something about Wisconsin as well. It just in the snow, it always looks great.
It does, doesn't it? Ah, some more beige.
It's just another brown coat for Bill.
Paul, your time came sooner than we expected. And you're going to be alone as the new president.
Yeah, Robert Foxworth was in a few interesting movies around this point. He's in a horror movie called Ants, which is not hugely well seen and not hugely well thought of, but I really enjoy.
There wasn't. Who else is in there?
Oh God, everybody. Linda Day George.
Wasn't William Shatner did it?
Not Shatner, no. Oh, Shatner did
Was the one about bees?
Kingdom of the Spiders. Is it Kingdom of the Spiders? Is that what it's called? I can't remember what it's called. Empire of the... Oh, I can't remember. No, not Empire of the Ants. It's another one. It's the same guy made all of those giant killer animal movies in the 70s. I can't remember his name now.
I can't remember what else I've seen him in, this gentleman. He's in Babylon 5, 2 episodes, Sequest DSV, Murder, She Wrote. Here we go.
He's Airport 77 and Prophecies in as well, which is another good horror movie from this era.
What the hell? He's in the Transformers movies. Oh, he's the voice of Ratchet in the Michael Bay movies. Ooh. Here we go. Airport 77, yeah. Chambers. We've gone back to business chat.
These people have a lot of coats, don't they? Every scene they're wearing a coat, but it's a different coat.
I know. Most of the time you've got your winter coat and you've got your summer coat or whatever.
Yeah, I've got a thick coat and a thin coat, and I've had them for the last 15 years. Clearly, I need to be a captain of industry. I'd be able to afford more coats.
I've been told off for buying too many coats.
Really? It is amusing, isn't it? These Hollywood stars, a very common story is with Bill Holden. He was offered the first movie, as he said, didn't want to be in a movie about the devil, wasn't comfortable with the idea of being in a movie about the devil and thought it sounded rubbish. Then it's a massive hit, and he's first in line to be in the sequel. Oh, yeah. Suddenly all his opinions have changed.
Gregory Peck had to be persuaded, didn't he, I think, to do the first one.
Oh, sure.
I think he had a similar, complaint. But Donna, I think, managed to sort of persuade him that it was going to be more like, again, some sort of coincidence of these kind of weird, situations people are put into that someone's going to die or, But Holden was good friends with Ronald Reagan. He was friends with him for a very long time.
I'm surprised they went for maybe Gregory Peck was in a career lull at the time, but I'd have thought Gregory Peck was not only better suited to that character,
he was clearly,
but a much bigger star than Bill Holden was. Always kind of a bit, not B level, but he didn't. He was certainly during his heyday.
Ronald Reagan was B level for his career, wasn't he? As an actor,
well, he was C level, really.
The actor, Back to the Future. What was that? Was that gentleman who's in Exorcist 3 and the Changeling? Not Changeling. Is it Changeling? No.
Exorcist 3 is... oh, God, I couldn't remember his name in a commentary we did a while ago. The one from Dr. Strangelove and... Oh, Jesus
yes!
Christ, I can't remember his name.
One of the... he's brilliant, isn't he? George C. Scott.
George C. Scott. I can't remember anything anymore.
Well, it's too much of that wacky, mate.
This is an absolutely brilliant scene. I love it.
Oh, yeah, because it was supposed to... I think it was in the Bible or something, sort of reference that he had, like, incredible intelligence, like the devil or whatever, that he could recite things so quickly, It's like he's having an argument with Richard Lester. Yeah, but William C. Scott, he would... George C. Scott, sorry. George C. Scott, sorry. Well, he would have been great for this, because he's, again, the Changeling in Exorcist 3, he just pop up and stuff, you think, what, him? But he's such a good actor, And also, I think he's like a really bad sort of alcoholic, drinking on set all the time.
So was Bill Holden, you mean, or...
Oh, sorry, George C. Scott.
George C. Scott, yeah. They were both drunks. They were both wild drunks. Bill Holden was as well. I think he was a bit more professional. I've not read or seen much of Bill Holden being drunk on set. Mm. But, in fact, it's mentioned in the commentary. What's his name? Bernhard, the producer, mentions that Bill Holden would just drink a bottle of scotch every night in the hotel.
Yeah. Because he passed away a couple of years later. I think he had either... was it heart failure or something like that? They found him collapsed in his apartment or house, whatever.
Well, it's like you say, people of that generation, actors of that generation, none of them, or very few of them, lived to a ripe old age.
No, even though they look quite old, but they're all heavy smokers and drinkers.
Yeah.
He
had a hell of a career, though, despite me just calling him a B-level actor. Bill Holden did have a hell of a career, but I've always seen him as more of a character actor than a leading man.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. That's why I sort of suggested George C. Scott, because he was getting leading man roles, And
I think he's good. He's right for the part, though. He's very good in it, but he's right for an industrialist.
You feel like he could be the brother of Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
It will fit that.
Yeah, one of them went into politics and one of them went into business, and the one who went into politics is the one who naturally kind of. I don't know if he was consciously based on JFK, but he's very reminiscent of John F. Kennedy, that Gregory Peck character, to me.
Right. Do you think this is Mike Hodges stuff?
I'm convinced. Yeah. Apart from anything else, there's no way they get all these extras back. Even if they do come back here to shoot, especially considering when Don Taylor, the Don Taylor era of production was, the coffers were battened down. There was no spare money for anything.
Oh yeah, especially in the 70s where budgets were quite low for things. And
see, $4 million doesn't seem like a huge budget to me when you think this is. I don't know. I mean, fine, it was a sci-fi movie, but Star Wars was made on a shoestring budget and still cost 3 times this much.
Yeah. Alien cost $8 million, So it's just down to, with this, $4 million. I mean, because again, they don't have to spend any money on really any visual effects. They've got one miniature shot and a couple of little makeup effects, So it's interesting. Harvey said he didn't make any money off this movie.
Yeah.
Because he basically was working for the studio, because it was some sort of weird thing at the time about the money given and the interest of the percentage of what you could earn. So he ended up being too much of an interest. You couldn't make any money. And also, we do know, he wasn't working it wasn't a UK production where you got taxed the shit out by the British government, who taxed the entertainment industry incredible amount,
I have a rule generally listening to commentaries, which is don't believe anything a producer says. But there is obviously something funny went on with the finances for this movie, because the first one was 2.5 million budget. So you're making the sequel to a blockbuster, and you've got a significantly bigger budget. So fine, yeah, it feels like it should have been more, but it's more than the first one, so that makes some sense. But it's been made by a studio, so why do they have to borrow? The interest rate he mentioned was 20%.
Yeah.
Why does a major studio have to borrow the financing at such an exorbitant rate? And then when it's finished, why is it not then rushed into theatres? As we all know, and as Bernard says, it's all about a quick turnaround when you're paying interest.
Yeah. Was it? That was probably why he's concerned about Mike Hodges being slow. We're going to lose money. And also, I don't know, was there a recession at this point? I don't think so. I think in the UK there was.
There was in the UK.
The pound had dropped considerably. Smelly puss.
I laugh out loud every time, as a child, every time I saw this bit as well. I can't remember what you say. It's something like "Why me?" or something. It's just so weird.
They should have had on the frame had a shot and runs from left then to right down a corridor, through the doors, Yeah, Goldsmith is really having to sort of do a lot of work here for some kid just running.
It goes on and on and on, doesn't it? And then it's like, he just gets to the end here and then just, okay, I'm turn left now. Where are you going? None of it seems natural to me.
He really needed a shot like the sun going down, where it's kind of fiery red, and then do the why me.
Yeah. Mike Hodges would have found a sunset to shoot there.
No, yeah, waited all day for that fucker.
I remember being so baffled by what this institution actually was as a child, because it seems like it's the army, but it's also a school, and it's also like, it seemed more than anything, it seemed like some sort of borstal or some sort of, like prison for children, basically. And I couldn't work out for the life of me what it is and why they're there.
Is it an American thing? Because I don't recall anyone I knew went to military school. It's just like some people I knew just got shoved into boarding school, and they had to stay there for months on end and see the parents at like holidays and stuff. That was it. And they never had a good time. They always hated it.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine being a child and being subject to the rules and rigmarole of a military institution?
Yeah. That's probably when they get older, they turn into complete bastards. Heartless people. That's like a lot of the MPs in the UK. He went to private schools. The parents just got rid of them. That's what this one comedian said. He went to a private school, had to stay with his, and he goes, "Oh, it's horrible." And like, all these guys are going to be horrible, but sharp as a whip though, because everyone's got a serious bollocking if they did something wrong.
That's going to change. Oh my God, that's a brown room. That's really going to change. Without wanting to drift off onto a completely different subject. What I've noticed is everyone I know, being of an age where people have kids in school, everyone I know whose kids are in fee-paying schools, it's because the kids need the extra attention. There's this huge pandemic of kids on the spectrum, either with a bit of autism or a bit of ADHD or something like that. That's why they're all being sent to fee-paying schools now. So it used to be because it was the rich people who wanted their kids to grow up privileged, but those kids, it's changing the whole dynamic.
Maybe that's what the old lady thought about Damien. He must be on the spectrum. Well, they probably didn't know what that was back then, so now that will be an issue. He's a bit socially weird. I love that window, though.
Yeah, of course that's Robert Foxworth's place. Look how cool he is. Look at how freaking cool that guy is.
Yeah. You could throw someone out of that.
Eric Draven could swing in and out of that window.
Yeah.
Do you think they've both got perms?
They both have perms, man. Yeah. Both
It's not natural, is it?
No, 70s stuff, innit? He should at least have his apartment. I don't know, because it's all supposed to be like a coincidence of how these things happen. But if he's a supporter of the devil, one of his servants, they should have like a weird room where he just like tortures people, or you know what I mean?
That's exactly what this movie doesn't. What these movies don't do, though, isn't it? It's exactly almost any other movie with a bunch of Satanists in it. There'd be. That certainly at least one of them would have some sort of torture chamber. Or
well, Damien in the third one has a statue of Christ where he's like, instead of being screwed to it, the crucifix, he's lying on it, like leant forward on it. So his back's not to it. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
And he's got like blood on him and things like that. He's got like the markings. So yeah, that's his kind of hidden room he has. Nothing else suggests in his house that he has anything that sort of seems evil or whatever. He has like statues. Like it looks like basically someone of extreme wealth who has artifacts and stuff. Maybe they're sort of the artifacts. Well, no, he wouldn't have artifacts that are designed to ward off demons. It will be something either to celebrate it, but you don't really see much to make any sort of impression.
No, it's much more low key. It's the whole idea is. It's not like Delta Force 2, where the villain Billy Drago has a torture chamber in the middle of his living room. It's not for the convenient torturing, Yeah,
excuse out of the way. Just put your dinner on the table. Right? Ignore that.
These people are convincingly normal and real. It's not. There's no winking. There's no. I suppose Lance Henriksen. It's revealed pretty early on that he's in on it, but
yeah, when you see those two guys sort of nod, it's like that bit in The Simpsons. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
So keep nodding, nodding for ages.
But he also basically just tells Damien that he's Satan's son as well, doesn't he? Quite early on.
Oh yeah, just casually. Just read this book in the Bible, then you find out who you are or something. He's just like, oh, okay. And he's like, 666. Isn't this stuff Mike Hodges as well? I know there's something about it. Like,
the camera's moving, so it could well be.
something slightly dynamic there. It's got to be Mike. It's got to be Mike. Yeah, online it says the entire opening sequence in Jerusalem, some of the footage at the factory and at the military academy. So the academy, I think, was all Mike's.
Yeah.
And the dinner where Aunt Marion shows her concern about Damien, which you've mentioned. So this is all, this has to be all Don Taylor's stuff.
They are some of the best, in fact, most of the best scenes.
Oh, what? Mike's or Don's?
Yeah, well, no, Mike Hodges. It does. Well, I don't know. I really like the stuff with Aunt Marion at the beginning. Marion, wherever she is. Like I say, I think that the best moment is that exchange between Damien and the teacher when he's putting the teacher in his place.
Yeah.
Actually, the whole ice skating bit's great too. That's Don Taylor.
Yeah, yeah. They gone to the box factory, and he popped eyeballs.
Yes.
My son's a box. It's like, damn you.
Somehow I never clicked that that's an Evil Dead 2 reference there in
What do you mean?
Simpsons.
Yeah.
It never clicked that it's really obvious too. Bart says something about a hand being chopped off and crawling about, and he popped eyeballs.
Trying to strangle everybody. It's like this is like what I remember. When I was younger, we got invited to the Cadbury's factory. Right, we all thought, oh, it's gonna be like Willy Wonka, and it's just like boring off shit like this.
Miserable people in hard hats.
At the end of each section, they show you the museum or factory. They give you one bar of chocolate. Sometimes it was a fun-sized one. I was like, this is disappointing. So annoyed. I want like big bars of like caramel, Cadbury's caramel or something. Big slabs of it. He's unleashed the methane. It stags. Oh, there you go. That's Harvey Bernard's cameo.
Oh, really? Which one?
Man with no hair.
Ah.
Oh, man's dribbling there.
I was.
He's turned to a zombie. He's got all grey, like Dawn of the Dead.
Funnily enough, I was listening to the commentary while I was working in the other room, and when Bernard started saying, "Yep, that's my cameo," I was thinking, "Oh, by the time I get to the TV, it'll have gone it." And then he keeps mentioning it again, and that's me again. And I finally jumped up and ran through just as obviously the shot changed, and I didn't see who it was.
He's got to look at him. Dun, 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 dun.
You're being too obvious.
Yeah. Oh, look at those lighting in the background. Look at this curtain. That's proper disco curtains.
Look at that.
Oh, a bit of fucking colour.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
There's more. The camera is focused on a brown suit, obviously, but yeah, a little scene there, a little moment with it being. Oh my god! Sorry, I'm recording in the house, and I've botched together some sound baffles, and they've all just fallen over. But a little scene of Robert Foxworth, sort of, you've got to keep your power. You've got to be more subtle, telling him, because he's almost revealed here, isn't he? And they end up having to kill another person because of it. He's being too obvious with his abilities.
Because he discovers, testing his blood, he's got the blood DNA of a jackal. So,
and he's completely unaffected by the methane that's hurt everyone else as well. There's no trace of it.
I don't know if it was methane. I was just joking.
I'm happy to accept it's methane now.
Oh, it's the 70s. No bras allowed. He's quite content now. He's quite happy. Yeah, gave him a good gassing.
He's getting the evil. He's getting his evil on now. He's starting to like it.
If I was him, I'll be discovered quite soon because I'll be quite naughty straight away. If I had those powers.
God, yeah. What was the first thing? Mind you, we don't really know what his powers are.
Yeah, it's all vague, isn't it? You know, something he can do with his mind, isn't it? So it's.
Could he, for example, raise an X-wing out of a swamp? Do we think? Could he do something like that?
Maybe by the third film he could do that.
Yeah.
Not as a teenager.
Yeah, I meant to look up how old Lee Grant was because she's in all kinds of movies, like back in the 50s. So she was in her 50s when this was made.
Jesus.
I can't believe that.
So the age difference between her and William Holden, is quite not that far. Not that far.
Probably isn't much, yeah.
It's been about a decade. She's aged really well then. You know.
She looks incredible.
But is it okay? I'll mention when we get to later. Actually, when we get to see the mural picture in the transit thing or the train. I mustn't forget that.
7 years. 7 years difference in age between.
Blimey. Well, that's what booze does to you, mate.
I'd have guessed, like, if it weren't for the fact that he's obviously younger than he looks because it's the 70s, I'd have guessed there was a 25-year age difference between them.
Easily, man, yeah.
Don't get in that lift, man. Don't piss off Damien and then get in an elevator.
But if he goes up the steps, though, it'd be something like a peanut on the step. And he goes, whoa! And it rolls down the steps and breaks his neck. Oh, if it was like 13 or something, that would be like...
It's the slowest elevator in the world as well.
Yeah, he's like, where's it so slow? It's gone past his stop there, isn't it?
Who is that guy?
It was his movie debut. This was.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Oh, what was he in?
Meshach Taylor.
I think he's maybe in like House Party and things like that.
Oh, no way.
I was like, "This is what their dad or something."
That's bizarre. I was just re-recording this morning a bit from my new video, which mentions House Party. I have mentioned House Party today, and I don't think I'd thought about it in about 20 years.
So, man, that's a bit spooky. There you go. That's like rear projection, isn't it? Behind him in the lift. What if he jumps just before it stops?
Yeah,
what would happen?
I've always been convinced you can do that, but I'm probably wrong. Oh, that's a sloppy set. The carpet doesn't fit properly.
Oh yeah, look at it. Yeah, it's not been cut well. What is that?
This is a proper. Someone's just seen a horror movie, and right, originally we just had him slipping on a peanut on the stairs. What the kids are watching now.
Oh, that slow-mo.
Oh, no, all that glass is going to cut him on top of everything else.
That's a freak accent. Oh, well, never mind. Can't be helped. Gosh, he's in grey as well. Oh, my God, he's not wearing brown. That's a first. Brown means business, though, doesn't it?
You can't dress someone in brown in this room, though. It's just not possible. They'll disappear.
Where is he? I'm over here.
I love this 70s, like, opulent. It's like a ski lodge, American ski lodge type architecture. Really, lots of deep brown woods and big windows and massive stone fireplaces.
Oh yeah, I love that design. I mean, this would be, people would think maybe in the 80s and 90s it'd be extremely dated now, but these sort of properties would be quite expensive, for its design. There's a great house in Norwich, which was we saw like for sale, proper old school 1970s design, wood everywhere. It looked like it was owned by a porn star or something, a man who made porn. It looks like something you'd see, sort of movies. But yeah, it's a fantastic design.
Have you ever seen inside Jimmy Page's house, the Zeppelin guitarist? His house. He used to live near me in London, and it's this really cool old. Looks like an ancient sort of church, but it's some sort of medieval. It's not a castle, but it's like a small
like
medieval castle. Yeah, really interesting design. But he's maintained it inside entirely period perfect. So it's got like covered. It's like stone flag floors and ancient tapestries all over the walls and stuff. It's just the coolest house I've ever seen.
Googling now, as everyone else will be doing as they listen to this. Gee, that is amazing.
Robbie Williams lives next door, and I remember when I was living there was a years-long battle going on because he was trying to build a swimming pool under his house, and Jimmy Page was like, "Look, man, you can't mess with, it's going to shake this place to pieces. You can't be messing with it."
Robbie should have been. Did Robbie actually do it in the end?
I don't want to know in case he did. In a world where Jimmy Page loses in a battle with Robbie Williams, I just don't want to know about it.
Respect your elders, Robbie.
And betters.
Oh, some good sort of eerie music in this scene.
So yeah, where did this box come from? How did this box end up with him? And these are the what's his name? Leo McKern's character. I've forgotten the character's name. Did he own all this stuff? Was this his, in his possession?
With the gentleman at the beginning with Bugenheim.
Yeah, because Bugenheim. Because Gregory Peck had.
Yeah, they both died, but someone's been digging up the obviously gone to the site and has not renovated it, basically cleared it all out, and they've discovered these items and sent it back to where the original archaeologist was, I think, based, or I think because they're doing the exhibit, they're sending stuff over.
Right. But so those aren't the knives that Gregory Peck, because Gregory Peck had the
yes they are the knives.
Oh, they are the knives. So what did they go? So where did they? So what they were found in Israel, and Bugenheim, whatever his name is, gave them to Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
And then they come. Then they're here, but they're here. They arrive here at the same time as things that have come from Israel. So is it a different set of knives, maybe, or
I think it's only implied there's only one set of knives. Because at the end of this, they're found, because it's all destroyed, and they find it in a rubble. And then the people that work for the Vatican or whatever take them. No, they don't at first. They sort of at an auction, and then someone finds them in an antique shop and buys them, and they know what they are. But in this, it's kind of, because as I was saying earlier, the sort of connecting pieces don't really make sense. Like, they're talking about people you don't see about obtaining these items that then find themselves back at the museum. Because we know the journalist had been investigating, right? So she was out there, but we don't see any of that.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
They've got a 35mm projector in their house.
I know, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It's got the switchover ones, which are a pain, I never used those ones.
So how did it work? I mean, it's all on one big reel. Oh, you switched the...
You probably have 3 reels on one big spool, and then another on the projector, and then you've got to wait for the change over to then...
You've just got to time it right.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Sometimes, I think maybe some point they could have... No, you couldn't be automatic. Well, they could be, actually. Yeah, they could be automatic. But most people just had one, and just... That's when you didn't have a platter system, in place.
Yeah. God, I was in the projection room of the old IMAX in Bristol with our friend Tai Singh a couple of months ago. And they had, what I'd never seen was IMAX film cans. So like the 70mm.
They're whoppers, aren't they?
Like 2 meters across or something. I've never seen anything like it. It was absolutely fantastic. I'd love a few of those. Oh, shit.
He looks at him funny.
It's brilliant.
Maybe because he was like, oh, a green jumper. Doesn't seem to match the decor.
Yeah. You're not a proper thorn. Nothing on you is brown. I love his face when Damien opens the door. Then it's literally, oh shit, not you, anyone but you. I'm just dead, aren't I now?
Yeah. I guess he goes a bit like mental, doesn't it? As you were saying, when someone finds out Damien is who he is, everyone just goes a bit manic. They're not even religious half the time.
Yeah, it is shocking how easily people believe that, because there is nothing that happens in this movie short of the conclusion that would make me believe it would be a coincidence. As far as it would have, of course, it's a coincidence. There's no freaking Satan, and if there is, his son isn't going to be born of a jackal to bring about the end times in Wisconsin. It's just not going to happen. That brown, he does disappear into the background every now and again, that guy with his brown cheeks. Every now and again it looks like he's just a disembodied head floating in the wood.
In the third one, they also have a similar moment like this, where in this scene here, you're seeing Damien's cousin overhearing the conversation. And in the third one, you've got the lady who's a journalist, works at BBC or something like that, or ITV. Her son listening in to the Italian individual who works at the Vatican, telling her about Damien.
I suppose the cousin has already seen a couple of things that don't make sense, which is why he's convinced by overhearing this. But yeah. Oh, that's an angry face.
Oh, yeah.
Did he ever go on and do anything? I didn't look him up.
I think he did. Yeah, he did. I think he did quite well after this.
That's a 1990s haircut he's got. How did he pull that off?
He's got a bit of like his hair's been coloured, isn't it? That's not him. What's his cousin's name again?
Oh God, I can't remember.
He's another Thorn, isn't he? Oh yeah, Mark Thorn. Mark Lucas Donat. Really? Yeah.
He's not related to Robert Donat, is he?
Yes, actually. Wait a minute. How many Thorns we got here? Richard and Damien.
I think I just want to be the men in this film that, like... it might sound silly, but I've always really wanted a pair of pyjamas like that. Like old man pyjamas. They look so comfortable.
I can get you some for your birthday. When is your birthday? You've already had it, haven't you?
Funny enough, it was yesterday.
Oh, shit!
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Rob.
Or the day before, maybe, actually. No, day before.
I do have a gift for you, but I'll have to give it to you next time I see you.
I know, I just missed your birthday recently, because do you remember I told you when we were a couple of weeks ago, I'd ordered you a gift, but when I saw you it hadn't arrived yet. It's got frickin' lost, hasn't it? And I can't get a replacement.
What?
Which you're probably going to be glad about, because it was Megaforce on Laserdisc.
Oh! Fucking hell,
Lost in the mail.
What? I'm heartbroken. Well, actually, no. I was talking out my bum about Lucas Donut. He left acting, and he's the CEO of a company. So he has done well. You know what I mean? Financially. Jerry Goldsmith is really trying to help this scene with a lot of kind of playing out the music, but because this is a guy walking into the snow. Oh, look at those wonderful brown trousers.
Just everything the men wear in this movie I want. I quite like that dress too. I think it would suit me.
have a pipe or something, some scotch. You might be all right. Might be able to pull it off.
God, 7 years difference in age between them.
Yeah.
I bet William Holden's had an interesting life, though.
Oh, yeah.
He seems like a chap who had fun.
He's earned that weathering, hasn't he?
So this was when was Network then? So I'm trying to think when he kind of.
That's 77, 76 maybe.
So yeah, it was before this though, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Like just shortly before this.
I'm not going to take it. I've not seen the Network. I've only seen little bits of it when people talk about it in a sort of historical sense. But yeah, 76. Yeah.
So I can't remember. Is he kind of hunting the cousin now? Has he already decided?
He's basically looked into the Bible to sort of confirm his own suspicions, and he's gone off into their back garden essentially, which is like massive acres of land, and to sort of
come to terms with it all. Of course, yeah. He's trying to avoid Damien now, isn't he?
Yeah. Damien's like, "You're my brother. I see you as my brother," or something, and then he like gives him the aneurysm or whatever, and then he just lets out a massive scream. Either like Harvey Bernard said, because he's really upset because he wanted his brother to come with him in some way or follow his lead. And then he cries because he's killed him by mistake. I don't think he wanted to kill him, but I thought he did want to kill him. Emotional anger, but then he lets out a scream which somewhat feels forced to sort of, highlight that if anyone nearby would not blame him.
Yeah, that's what I took it to be, an assassination and then an act to
cover it up.
To cover it, yeah.
Oh, he fell over or something,
But I can believe that he wanted that because obviously he tries to get him on side first, which is a nice little pointer to his that Damien is not 100% pure emotionless evil. He is a human as well. Yeah, thinking about it, there have actually been a couple of quite cool kills. I was unduly critical to begin with, because maybe this is the only one that's kind of a bit shit.
Yeah, this is the weakest one. It should have had like a tree, I don't know, like break and it impales him or something. Like.
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating about it. I remember thinking this even when I was young. I'm a big believer in using what's around you to have creative kills. It's like if you watch a horror movie set in a gym and no one gets their head crushed by weights, then you've been shortchanged, because that should happen. And here you've got, it's this remote, freezing, icy wood, snow. There's all kinds of possibilities.
Like an icicle just falls off and just impales him.
Exactly. They did a great job with this frozen lake.
Yeah.
In that respect, in that regard. But yeah, there's...
But remember, it's got to be a death which won't connect Damien at all.
Very true, yeah. Yeah.
So someone said it was like an icicle. He could have cracked it and thrown at him or attacked him with it. But if it was like a massive tree, then you're fine. You ain't going to be able to sort of push that over.
Or maybe like a deer or something. He's gored by a deer.
Yeah, that'd be good. This is like something he should do. Like it's like Darth Vader when he strangles people. Or like it should have gone crazy like the Force, where he throws him against a tree and he goes, and just breaks his back or something.
Imagine a modern, like a Blumhouse type horror movie.
It would be so at the top.
There would be, he'd be like throwing him between trees, close-ups of his face smashing into the bark, and then a branch going through his eye.
Popped eyeballs. Or he's like a big strike, gets struck by lightning, just like catches fire or explodes over William Holden. Just goes. He's so good. You could do a lot of crazy fun stuff with the character of Damien, but then it sort of dilutes the sort of the grounded reality of it all, and it becomes schlock, and it's
very true. It's all about,
but it does become more entertaining. You know, what do you want?
It's all about restraint with him, and it's that's a really good example of it in that scene. Actually, usually the child would play that scene winking at the camera. They'd say, "Oh, I don't know what happened." But it would be acted in such a way that, you know, it's clearly obvious that he's lying, and that, you know, obvious. The adults there may not know, may not realise, but it will be obvious to the audience that he's putting on an act. And as it is, he's genuinely convincing. Like, there's nothing to suggest he isn't telling the truth when he tries to explain what happened, and when he says it wasn't anything to do with him. It's entirely believable.
Because you could have had a scene where the parents are looking down at his cousin, and then it cuts to him, and he pulls a little smirk.
Exactly, that's what they'd always do.
That's how the first film ends, with him smirking. Because Richard Donner says, "Don't laugh, don't laugh," and the kid like starts to smile, and he goes, "Got it, got the shot." You know?
Is that how?
Yeah.
There, it works brilliantly there, because it's the end of the movie. You've earned it by that point, obviously, and it's.
And also here, this scene here, they've got the doctor telling them the results of what happened to his cousin, and sort of a cheap way to sort of, without shooting a scene, you have them sort of remembering what the doctor said and having his voiceover be part of it. Having this sort of stuff here, this kind of iconography, this kind of like, you know, Romanesque type buildings, kind of fits with that whole thing. I think it's similar on Power, isn't it?
Yeah, they do that well in these movies. Yeah, they present power in a compelling and interesting way. Yeah, it's a constant backdrop to everything.
Now she's already like, doesn't want him to go, doesn't want him to sort of find out any more information. She's sort of unreasonable. Slap her, she's hysterical. Always got the dad jump on. Always gone for some brown. Excellent. He's dropped the green. Thankfully. Did he wear one of those Parker jackets earlier? Those awful jackets of the 70s and 80s had the orange inside, you know, the sort of Parker jacket thing. You always see stock footage in the 70s and 80s where he's like, do you know any greasy kids wearing these Parker jackets?
Snorkel Parkers, I think they were called, weren't they?
Yeah. My friend had one of those, even in the 90s. This looks so old-fashioned.
Yeah, in my mind, they should all have mittens sewn into the sleeves.
Yeah. And this character, obviously the archaeologist from the museum, he's now kind of, in some way, sort of acting like the priest in the first one, where he's trapped himself in a room, and on the walls he's kind of done crucifixes, right? I think.
Yeah, you've got to have one. It's like Sam Neill in The Mouth of Madness is the pinnacle of that. You've got to have that guy in a Satanist movie.
Well, Sam Neill's first role, wasn't it? In Omen II.
Of course, yeah, good point. Was that his debut, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he ended up marrying the woman who plays his love interest in it.
Ah.
And they also got divorced years later, but they had a kid.
Yeah, I've not seen it for, 25, 30 years probably.
It got made quite quickly after this, but it got delayed for a bit, like for its release. It got released in 1981. And Richard Donner would come back just to executive produce. But in it, they use the shot from Superman 2 with the White House. And then the interior of the White House, where the president sits and does his, was it the Oval Office? Yeah. That's the same set from Superman 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he just like kept it after filming, and someone else could use it for another film.
The best Superman.
Good Superman. It's a good film. Good film. Obviously, he's dragged him out. He's like really cold. Come on, you. He's just like, I'm freezing. And he's like, I won't go in there. He won't look at the the picture on the. Now this is weird. The picture coming up because Holden says that he had seen Damien on the wall, right?
Mm.
But you don't. We, the audience, don't see Damien. We see a woman with this snakes out of her head, like a Medusa, right? And I thought what the film was trying to imply that it looks like Lee Grant.
Okay.
But that would hint that she was some sort of supporter of Damien. But he doesn't. But then Holden doesn't clock on to that. And then we have the twist where what Don Taylor introduced, where she stabs him.
Yeah.
With the daggers.
I just assumed that it was. I'm not great with faces, and so I just assumed that it must look more like Damien than I realised, or to someone else that would be recognisably Damien, because I didn't recognise that drawing as Damien at all.
Well, at the beginning, it's Damien as a child. It's the actor they used in the first one.
Yeah, but because it's got snakes on the head rather than the dark hair.
It's an older person. It's an adult, and it's like it's a woman.
It does look like a woman. Yeah. This is another.
This is a great,
kind of inventive, but at the same time, it's a bit of one of those ones of what's that?
Just move out the way.
There's some sort of meme where it's like, oh my god, I'm going to get run over. And the truck's like a mile away. What am I going to do? Oh no, there's a truck coming. What do I do?
Like this. It's Austin Powers spoof it, don't they?
Yes.
We're driving at 2 miles an hour. The guy just screaming for ages, not moving.
Like even after he's hit by the train, if I remember rightly, he's kind of like still okay. He's just
it locks him in there, doesn't it?
Oh,
Remember,
really?
that's when each carriage locks together.
Right,
so it's gripped around his waist. He's like stuck on it as he's getting smashed into the other train. Okay, so look at the face.
So who's that face meant to be?
I don't know, but I thought it implied it was his wife.
It doesn't look like her to me.
Exactly. I mean,
but it doesn't look like Damien.
But yeah, well, he's shocked, isn't he, by what he's seen? So he recognises the face, right?
But also, I mean, we already know from the exposition at the beginning that it's meant to be Damien, because that's what Leo McKern says. He says, I saw...
Yeah.
Oh, right, I've never got that he's meant to be... That somehow his leg triggered the 50-ton coupling.
Even those rocks, like that wall falling on Holden, that would have killed him, or they crushed his legs.
And if his body had just come between those two train cars, his legs wouldn't be hanging there. They'd have fallen to the ground because there was nothing for them to be attached to anymore. God, even Thorne's logo's brown.
Oh, the 70s was all about earthy colours, wasn't it?
I'm all for it.
His face, he's just like, oh dear.
Like they mussed his hair up a bit and put some white powder on his shoulder. Now he's had rocks fall on him. That'll do. Don't they mention it that Lance Henriksen, I think, or someone mentions that Damien's not very good with military history or something at the beginning, and then a couple of scenes later is the one of him knowing every single date of everything to do with military history. So I wonder if there's an argument to be made. This is very dull and detaily, but like maybe having seen that, Lance Henriksen somehow influenced the powers that be to influence Damien's knowledge of. Maybe it's like we need to improve. The fact that none of the mythology is explained is a good thing. I'm not saying it isn't, but it does make me start wondering about it.
Mm. Well, I suppose, the people that are around him who are protecting him are supposed to help him in some way, or improve his situation, maybe. But yeah, I always just saw it as like he wasn't paying attention, but he was. But he found class boring because he knew everything.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. God, private jets have come a long way, haven't they? Can you imagine a captive industry getting out of a plane like this nowadays?
Where's Damien? He's at the cotillion, sir. Get him and bring him to the museum immediately. What about you, sir? We'll take a cab.
I do like the way it ramps up here. There's proper energy now. Once that train scene's done.
I think the ending's very lackluster, though.
Yeah.
But then it kind of had to be downplayed. He's already got the ladies.
This is so funny. This is where he should have a glass of scotch or something.
Oh, damn it. No, it'd be like Tizer, wouldn't it? Or something. He's a kid.
Why are there... Also, this is a military academy. Would there have been girls in the military academy in the 70s?
No.
I haven't seen any up until then.
It's a satanic party. They'll get their party bags at the end,
7 years.
Wait a minute, that's a time frame between the beginning of the film to when you see him at school as well.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Is it 7
It
years?
is, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Clue's already there.
If there's a third use of the 7 somewhere, then maybe that's the number of the beast.
God, they look like really awful wedding dresses, don't they?
Yeah.
God. Look at the one in the background, the left there.
Excuse me, ladies.
Oh, that jazzy music in the background is horrendous. See, that's the last time we see Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
Annoying.
Yeah.
Why didn't he get to do anything? Because he can play bad guys so fucking well. Like in Hard Target.
He should have turned up in the last scene to do something.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I'm struggling to think what happens with Robert Foxworth now as well.
Nothing else happens to him.
So he's never even revealed as being in on it, is it? As being a...
No, he's not.
Bet you anything he was until they decided at the last minute that she was.
Yeah.
Unless he's just a red herring. But that's funny, because I've always had it in my mind that he's revealed as being in on it and that he's one of the Satanists.
No, two of Damien's biggest supporters are stuck at the party. We do know, though, that the driver is also another supporter of Damien, isn't it?
Is he? How do we know that?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Because at the end, he picks up Damien. He stands there and just looks at him.
Yes, yeah.
You think Damien would do something really cool here, but he doesn't. He just like he basically sets the room on fire.
Yeah, it needs a thing, doesn't it? It needs something memorable.
Yeah. Because the first one is a really dramatic ending. He's about to kill a little boy, and the police run in at the last minute and shoot Gregory Peck,
It's really nicely edited, if I remember rightly, that sequence at the end there.
That's Stuart Baird.
Yeah, I don't know about this. I don't feel like it's earned. I mean, it comes completely out of nowhere, so they've done their job. It's the surprise it's meant to be, but it doesn't quite ring true.
She did his work, and then he's going to kill her.
Yeah, if the objective here is to destroy the knives, which I'm assuming is that why he's setting fire to stuff?
Yeah, he's just destroying any evidence of him.
Right.
Just like, wearing a cape.
I mean, surely he'd have been better off leaving with her and the knives and any non-flammable evidence and then setting the place on fire. Because then the knives that can kill him would be in his possession rather than just lying about.
Maybe he just doesn't like being anywhere near, religious items of Christ. Because he doesn't like going in churches, does he?
Yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. I love churches.
Start screaming and get dragged into it. No, no. Your wife's like, what's the matter with you, Robert?
I just burst into flames as soon as I crossed the threshold. Yeah, that's a down. Yeah, they needed something else there, didn't they?
Deceitful workers.
You need more than a quote from the Bible to end a movie like this.
Well, they do it again in the third one, don't they? The end with a quote. When Jesus comes back at the end, he's like, rah! You see him. And Sam Neill's like, rah! You know.
That'd make a great isolated clip there. Just you just going, when Jesus comes back, he's like, wah!
I think I may have exaggerated that a bit. But Jesus seems to have, like, he's got his cape or something, or, you know, he's got wings.
Come on, let's have it, yes.
Just put in Superman there at the end. Same thing. Well, yeah, it's, you know, as we pointed out throughout, I mean, it's got its, you know, sluggish moments. You know, it's feels kind of dated even for the time, where in 1978 they're doing a lot more dynamic stuff, you know. Obviously done on a relatively cheap price and then a quick turnaround to capitalise on the popularity of the first one. But again, it's still kind of interesting. It's still got a lot of good moments to it, good performances throughout. You can't deny that.
Exactly, yeah.
And Goldsmith still knocks out another cracking score. It's just like, without a director with a solid vision for it to really kind of amp it up, there's no sort of let's outdo the first one. It's just really kind of do it the same, but ends up being kind of less so.
It was done as a professional job of work by people who knew what they were doing, but there is absolutely no passion or inventiveness or kind of, or like you say, clear vision. And but it's like there's a lot missing. There's a lot that isn't in it that should be in a horror movie, and that certainly was in most horror movies around this time. But at the same time, there's a lot in it that isn't in most horror movies, and certainly not horror movies of that time. The acting and the characters and the casting and all that stuff is what I probably appreciate the most.
Yeah. And as a trilogy, I don't mind them. I've gone back to 2 and 3 quite a few times, and the 3's got some interesting stuff in it, but again, it feels very much like the director's not being too ambitious, and you know, going into it, you know that he has to be defeated at the end. You can't, you know, stay on and rule the world. You know, you've got to have a good ending by the end. You know, you can't have a like this where he's winning, the bad guys are winning. But yeah, that's the end of the commentary, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Me and Rob will be back with Evil Dead 2.
Yay!
Yay! Very fun film. It's isn't there like a thing where you could cut the ending, cut the beginning of Evil Dead 2 and connect it to Evil Dead 1 when the camera goes up to his face at the end, and then you can cut to Evil Dead 2 where he gets spun around on that thing, you know, and you can easily connect the two together.
Yeah, I don't know if there's I've not heard of there being an actual specific shot like that, but I'm sure you're right. But yeah, conceptually speaking, that's exactly what you can do. I mean, you could.
Yeah, so I think people have done it. I think maybe.
It's rewatching them again recently. It really does stand out just how much the second movie is like the first half hour is a remake of the first movie, and then it's the sequel.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, I just thought it was just like a remake.
Yeah.
Of the first one. You know, it's, we've got more money, let's have it go crazy. And they do.
If you give them more money, more Three Stooges. You can't lose.
Exactly. Well, everyone, that's the end of the commentary. Hope you enjoyed it. Me and Rob, again, will be back soon with another commentary very soon. And goodbye for now.